rather than thinking that you're helping, you're actually robbing them of an opportunity to feel that pride on their own.
Welcome to Transforming the Toddler Years, a Core 4 parenting podcast blending soul and science-based strategies to empower pandemic moms like you, raising kindergarten-ready kids. I'm Cara Tyrrell, your host, a lifetime lover of littles, girl mom, early childhood educator, and conscious parenting coach who truly believes that how we connect and collaborate with our kids in the first 5 years is how we raise world-ready kids who will change this world. Welcome back to the Transforming the Toddler Years podcast. Today's guest is truly here to help you make a transformation in your thinking. We talk a lot on this show about parenting being a personal development journey. Well, April Hartman is here to talk about nurturing your child's growth mindset so that they develop a lifelong love of learning. Oh, those are two of the things I love the most. She's an illustrator, a designer, a writer, and a professional speaker. And her artwork is featured in kids' magazines, on posters, toys, and she's illustrated books for many children. She's the founder of My Little Growing Mindset and has created an entire resource package to nurture your child's 0 to 5 growth mindset. It is a fantastic conversation that applies to us as growing adults, as mothers, and to our children, and how we can help them be their best selves at every age and stage. April, I am so excited you are here to talk about growth mindset in little people. We talk about growth mindset all the time as evolving adults. People don't talk about it in our children enough. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm just so excited to be here and talk about this growth mindset. I live it and breathe it every day. So any chance I have to share it with other people and how it can be used, happy to do that.
Well, let's just dive right into it then, because it's such a huge topic. Before we talk about the intricacies of this growth mindset concept and children, tell us what it is and what it's not.
Well, growth mindset, it can be defined as this internal belief that effort is a good thing. It's knowing that if I have a goal in mind, when I come up against the challenging moments and that feeling of frustration, rather than backing off of it, thinking that this is something that is an opportunity to learn. And it's getting excited about that moment even. So that when, even if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. It's knowing that this is normal. This is part of the progress of learning anything new.
So really, it's embracing this idea that we can fail forward, that we can try, not achieve, but try again.
Correct. Yes, that's the essence of it. I think that some people might confuse it with just having a positive attitude, and it's not always that. When you consider that when we have a great idea and we're feeling really jazzed up about some new endeavor, that's great. And, we can tell our kids, hey, you can do anything you set your mind to. And that's a great feeling when we're in that moment of feeling very excited. The difference with growth mindset is knowing that the achievement is going to happen over the long haul, that you're going to put in work, and sometimes it might not even feel like you're making progress, but those are the moments when you're pushing through maybe a plateau to learn something new. And that's one of the differences here. You also asked, what is it not? So the opposite of growth mindset is what's called a fixed mindset. This is believing that there's something about you, yourself, that this is just the way I was born and it can't be changed. I'm just a quiet person. So no, I'll never be on a podcast. I could never do that. That was me, years ago. I could not imagine that I would be doing this. So it's challenging those beliefs and realizing that even in a moment where it's not something that you're comfortable with, you can still make progress. So it's fighting that fixed mindset, that self-limiting belief.
Oh, I live in this space, April. And I arrived here as an adult, and I feel like most of us do. We have some type of defining moment in our evolution to adulthood, and we say, wait a minute, I get to decide how I'm going to live the rest of my life, and I get to decide who I want to be inside my job, my relationship, my goals, my achievements. And then we start this personal development journey. And when we first talked, I was so inspired by you because you said, why wait? Why do we have to wait until we have floundered our way there and feel so lost and out of control? Why can't we instill this growth mindset in our children when they're young? Can you tell us more about why all of a sudden that became your mission and matters to you so much?
Yes, I'm very excited to talk about that. So this is something that for me, so my background, I am an author and illustrator of children's books. My artwork, it's in kids' magazines, it's on posters, and I have illustrated many books. I also do some writing for children. I found that as I was working on story ideas, they kept coming back to this recurring theme of pushing through adversity and how to think positively. As I went into the research, I found myself, just obsessed with growth mindset and all of the research that's done on a personal development level, and also the writing of Carol Dweck's book about mindset. There, she talks about her own research and how it started with young children and realizing that some of these kids at a very young age already had a really strong growth mindset that, they would get a puzzle and they'd be like all excited, like, yeah, let me at it because I'm excited to learn new things. I love a challenge. So the question for me was, well, what's the difference? How did that happen with this child? Is it just they were born this way? Well, that's not growth mindset thinking right there, to think that, one person just is born loving a challenge. What I did with all of the stories that I was coming up with, there was one that I got published, and it's called The Dream Keepers. This story is about how to make a wish come true. And I'm going to hold up the book cover here. So if anybody is just listening to the audio, and if you're able to check this out on video, you could find the book. It's called The Dream Keepers. It's a story about how to make a wish come true. And there's two characters, happy thoughts and hard work. And what they're doing is they're helping this star on a long journey to its home in the sky. This book, when I was starting to promote it with the publisher and also visit schools, I'm learning that the teachers and schools really are all over this. They're talking to the children about what growth mindset is and explaining, here's how your brain works, that you can learn new things and your brain will take a new thing and you practice over and over, and it's like a path that you walk down over and over again, and it becomes easier. You can see that pathway. That's great. But it occurred to me still, how do you explain this to a very, very young child where you're not going to talk about how their brain works? They're going to learn it in some intrinsic way, something that's going to be ingrained into their psyche. So, of course, my first instinct would have been to, write a children's book. And this is what I was thinking. I'm going to write another children's book that is for this ages of 0 to 5. But looking at all the research, I realized there's so much more to it. And that is where I came up with the website that I've developed. And that is called mylittlegrowingmindset.com. It's full of ebooks and activities, ways to practice growth mindset, because this is not just one book. It's not something you can sit down and read about one time. It's going to be a way that you interact with your child on an everyday basis. Yes. In all of those little challenges that come about every day, because they are facing these moments these teachable moments all the time, every day. So the goal of My Little Growing Mindset is to take those moments and reframe it as not just a challenge that we need to hurry up and fix this problem and get it over with, but this is an opportunity to build some resilience and show a child that they have the ability within themselves to push through this.
Absolutely. Oh, this is too good. So so in my course, the Transforming the Toddler Years course, our first module is called The Magic of Mindset. And we spend time, the parents and I, kind of cracking the hood on all this and talking about how we talk to our kids about who they are. And one of the things that we unearthed recently in the most recent cohort was that we tend to say out loud to our kids, kind of reactively, instinctually, the descriptors of who they are that are not the best. Oh, you're so loud. You're so messy. You interrupt me all the time. Like those are the signals that we're sending our kids. And by doing that, we are kind of giving them this message of we expect the perfection, right? But perfection is not where the learning lives. The learning lives inside the trying, the struggling, the succeeding, the trying, the struggling, the succeeding again. And so I challenge parents to observe their kids' naturally positive attributes. And I love what you're doing because it sounds so similar, where you're saying, I see that some things take you a long time, but you just do them over and over and over without worrying about if you're going to get it right away. How beautiful is that?
Yep, I think we totally see eye to eye on this. Yes, absolutely. That's the magic happens in the struggle. This is one of the things that I highlight throughout the resources that I have on the website. It's to rethink that meltdown, that it's not, here we go again. It's not that. This is a teachable moment that mom, dad, you can have a different mindset to look at this also. This is an opportunity. This is where the child can learn something about themselves and their own ability to handle challenges. An example of this, one of the resources I offer is an ebook that's all about learning to calm, learning to self-soothe. Within each ebook, there are 3 stories. So I want to have it spread across different ages because we're talking to toddlers and preschoolers, everyone with different, levels of emotional self-management. So this book, it's all about learning to calm. And there's 3 different approaches. There is learning to self-soothe through listening to soft music. So this would be for just a 2-year-old, very young child. Another option is learning to take big breaths. So the boy in the story, he's practicing by practicing blowing big bubbles through a bubble wand. And so when he gets to a point where something was very challenging for him, he remembers, okay, this is a very frustrating moment. My favorite snack is gone. He can't do anything about it. But he knows that he can help his body feel better by, remember, practice blowing bubbles. He's doing this in the story. And the other example is something called tapping that I found out about when researching how kids can also learn to self-soothe. Tapping is a technique where you're using your fingertips to tap on different, what's called meridian points in the body. You tap on your eyebrow, you can tap under your nose, on your chin, and you find as you go through this repetitively, you'll start to calm down. You'll just naturally start to take some big breaths. So this was another technique that I introduced in the ebook. What I realized that what this does when a child learns that they can find a calm within themselves, just how empowering that is to realize that I don't have to go to someone else to make me feel better. I can find some calm that I own that I can manage anytime that I want. So with this, there's an ebook. I also created a poster that you can download and print out right from my website. And it's just 4 steps that you can practice with your child at a time when everybody's feeling good and calm. That way, when the more challenging moment comes up, the child might remember those steps. And if the child isn't remembering, mom, let's say you're in the checkout aisle at the store and, your little one is really losing it there. It can be very challenging just for mom to control her own and manage her own emotions in that high pressure time. Mom can just start the tapping technique on herself. Tap your eyebrow, tap under your nose, tap on top of your head, and go through these steps that the child will see, oh, mom's having an emotion too, and it's normal that we all have these emotions, and mom knows how to handle it with this, and it's important to know how to handle it. So not only are you doing something to calm yourself down, but you're also modeling the importance of managing these big feelings.
Modeling. That is all we ever do. Sometimes we do it with intention and we're paying attention to how we're modeling for our kids. And sometimes we don't even think about it. But every time we engage with our kids, every word we say, every opportunity we give, every reaction we have, they are absorbing it and saying, oh, this is how human beings interact with each other. This is how mom relates to me. This is probably how I should go relate to my friend. And it's terrifying when we think about it like that, right? That they're always absorbing and always learning, but it does exactly what you said, April, and it gives us an opportunity to guide it. I want to tackle something that I know is really important to both of us, and it's intentional use of language, because what we say holds a lot of meaning and a lot more than we even realize. Like the meaning behind our words is something that the kids carry with them as they're learning and growing. Hey, Mama, you know that it takes a village to raise a child, but did you know you can choose your village? That's why I've created a virtual village for you with all kinds of like-minded mamas. They're conscious, they're collaborative, they're intentional. Their goal is to raise really good human beings who will grow up to add value to this world. Join us today in our free private community on Facebook. Use the link in the show notes and let's transform the toddler years together. So one of the things that parents really struggle with is helping their kids do things, quote, right. So if you have kids, say you have a little person and they have the block, not the block sorter, right? The triangle goes in the triangle, the circle goes in the circle, and they're trying to put the triangle in the circle. I see parents all the time who feel like they really just need to help their kid by guiding their hand to the right shape so it plops in. Whoo, yes, you did it. How would you talk to a child in that space to help them understand that whether or not they successfully put the block in the right hole, they are growing their mindset by doing the activity?
Yes, this comes down to problem solving and the pride that a child can get by solving that problem on their own. I have come to look at it as, rather than thinking that you're helping, you're actually robbing them of an opportunity to feel that pride on their own, to understand that if I just keep going, I will eventually get it on my own, that I don't need to always have help with something. Here's something that I have a lot of fun with. I have taken the book that I have that's part of the website, My Little Growing Mindset, and I do a program at libraries. I'll visit during story time. So there's parents and young children. It's generally geared towards preschoolers, but mom with the preschoolers also going to bring the baby, the toddler, everybody's there. what I'll do is I read the book, My Little Growing Mindset. Again, if you're able to see it on video, here it is. It's available on Amazon.
They are darling.
Thank you.
The image, and I know you're the illustrator, so it's really beautiful to look at, very calming.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So at the library story time, I will read the book, and then we also do an activity. I explain to the parents before the activity starts that what we're doing is called open-ended play. I'm providing just a bunch of materials and some tools, and the kids get to experiment and problem solve and decide what they want to work on. I show a few examples. Here's some stuff I made. I glued some tissue paper here, and I cut up some yarn, and I stuck it down over here. And then everybody just goes at it. And I explained to the parents beforehand, we're just letting them explore and problem solve, do their own thing, make their own decisions. And as I was making my rounds, because I will go around as the kids are working, and I'm going to model some of the language of growth mindset, ways that you can praise or just ask questions or observe what's happening. There was one little boy recently, and mom's standing back, and you can tell she's trying really hard not to jump in. He had his piece of paper, and he had painted glue all over the front of it and didn't stick a thing to it. But just wanted to see what it was like to paint the glue on the front of it. And then he had a piece of yarn and some scissors, and he was just cutting that piece of yarn into tiny, tiny, tiny pieces, as small as he could get them. That was all he wanted to do. And mom's smiling at me like, yeah, it is so hard for me to not jump in and make something, to walk away from this with some end product that looks pretty. But she understood that what he was getting in that moment was what he wanted to work on, what he wanted to learn and challenge himself with, even if it was just cutting one piece of yarn into a million pieces.
Oh my gosh, I love this. As a teacher, we call that process over product. And it's a lost art, pun intended, right? The idea that there's more than one way to get to where we need to go. The idea that there's more than one way to interact with learning, that some people are very kinesthetic, some people are very cognitive, some people are very auditory. However they are going to create is how we need to allow them to create. Eventually, there's going to be some type of, okay, we need to check the box that you showed us that you understand XYZ. How you show us that, totally different story.
Right. You talk about the language that we use in praising kids. One of the first things that I hear everywhere I turn when you go into the research on growth mindset is to not just come out and say, good job, for something that a child completes. It's, for me even, it's been a really big habit to try to break that and not say that, because it's something I think that many of us grew up, we heard this everywhere we turned. If not from our own parents, we heard it from teachers, we heard it from our boss. Everywhere we go, it's part of our culture, really.
Yeah. We get validated that way for so long that we think that's the way we're supposed to seek validation.
Right. The danger with this, with kids, is it is a missed opportunity. If a child has completed something and worked hard, let's praise that effort. Wow, you worked really hard on that. There's also those times, though, where it's not just going to be a catchphrase. You're going to just say the same thing over and over again. Wow, you worked really hard on that. That's going to sound very cliche after a while. The point is to look at that effort and look at where the struggle was and ask questions, perhaps. Well, what part of this was difficult, or what's this too easy for you? Maybe we could try something a little more challenging next time, or what would you do to make this even more challenging? So it's not just always having an observation and piling on the praise, but getting kids to that point where they can ask themselves questions about, I wonder what I could do to make this even more challenging, or wouldn't it be fun if this was even more challenging, or I could make this even better. If kids are only looking for praise, they are less likely to pursue things just out of their own interest. Let's say in school that there's a certain curriculum to follow, and yep, they checked the box, they learned this material. What if a child has more of an interest in that subject and they want to go further and learn more about it? If they're not getting praised for that, and it's time to go move on to another subject, then we're robbing them of that opportunity to follow a path where, who knows what kind of impact they could have with that, in their future.
So what I'm hearing when you're talking is the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And
Yes.
I read a study once, I couldn't believe it, that said up to 80% of the American public is extrinsically motivated to complete tasks. And based on this survey, only 20% of us find that deep desire to set a goal and achieve it from inside of ourselves. And this is a social epidemic, I believe, yes. And it starts in childhood. And when we really need to be showing them that the path to a lifelong love of learning is by this continual growth inside the learning and our mindset as we grow into it. My 6 favorite words that a child says to me are, I did it all by myself. I love it.
I love it. I love it because you can hear just the pride that comes from that. And that is something that it is going to be ingrained into their psyche, and the love for that feeling of doing something all by yourself. Yeah, totally with you there.
So I have to ask, because I know we have a lot of moms who listen to this podcast. I mean, they're in it, right? They have multiple kids under 5. Life is exhausting. It's busy. It's chaotic. And their kids will say, no, I want to do this by myself. Kids tell us that, right? They give us that opportunity, but we have to get out the door. The shoe has to get on the foot, right? The buckle has to get buckled in the car seat because we need to get where we're going. How do we redirect our kids when we want them to do it for themselves and feel that achievement and grow inside that opportunity, but this is not actually the time where that can happen?
Oh, boy, that is a really good question. So I have these ebooks that I've created that are very specific to issues that you're going to run into with your child. For example, one of them is about learning to get dressed. It's, there's 3 different stories. We're learning to put on the shirt. We're learning to pull up the pants. We're learning to put on socks and shoes. That's one. There's another that's about doing chores, and another about trying new foods. So there are these little opportunities all the time. So my answer for that would be, if you're taking advantage of all of these other opportunities, then in those moments where, mom's just got to get this done. I would like to let you clean the window and, take all your time, and I'll maybe point out, here's where you missed a spot and here's where you missed a spot, because we need to learn to take feedback, and that it's not the end of the world if somebody points out a mistake. There's those times, but then there's also times where I just need to get this really clean, and it's got to be, whatever it is, it's a dish that has to really get clean. And I'm going to do this one, this one is mommy's job. This one is your job. That's what I would say in those moments.
Compromise.
There's plenty of opportunities.
I'm a huge fan of compromising with each other as adults and with kids. I have one funny story I have to tell you before we wrap, because it's so relevant. I was a nanny for a little girl. She was around 2.5 years old, very independent, I like to do things by myself kid. And she was working on the self-dressing. And so every day she would toddle herself down the stairs with her shirt on backwards every day. And every day I took her out of the house with her shirt on backwards. I did not care. The point to me was that she was feeling really strong inside the achievement of, I got this thing on my body. She was aware that it was backwards. She would say to me, the flowers are on the wrong side. I said, yeah, the flowers are on your back instead of the front today. All right, let's go. The day she came downstairs with a shirt on the right way, She was so full of joy. I have a picture of it. Her arms were reaching to the sky. Her face was lit up with a huge smile. And she just felt such achievement in that, trying for weeks to finally get it right.
That is fantastic. And it's so funny because that is one of the scenarios in the ebook. The little boy, decides which shirt he's going to wear. He wants to wear the teddy bear shirt, and he puts it on and looks down. Where's the teddy bear's face? And what happens in each of these stories is the child, you're hearing their self-talk. It's all told from that perspective. So he's deciding, does he want to fix it? Does he want to see the teddy bear's face? Yes, he does. And he decides to take it off and try again, and the pride that he feels when he's accomplished it. So this is one of the things with the ebooks, is that that children, if you sit down in a calm moment, in peaceful time when child is perceptive to learning something new, they can walk through each of these stories and hear the self-talk that another child is practicing in these frustrating moments. And we're labeling the emotions, so we know that, yes, this is hard, but this is where I learn. And so that's what each of these stories do, you go from that feeling of frustration to that feeling of pride at the end.
So good. And I love that the modeling is coming from peers of similar aged kids. It's so valuable. And it's something that our kids were robbed of during the pandemic pause. Many were born into peer isolation, and many were ripped away from that daily peer interaction. So thank you for being you. Thank you for being lit up by your work and going and researching it and creating beautiful resources for parents. April, tell everybody where they can find you and get their hands on these books, both the ebook and your beautiful hardcover that you showed us.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would say, please just go on and Google My Little Growing Mindset. It's My Little Growing Mindset, not growth mindset, because we are evolving, we're building this right now. So it's growing mindset. When you search that, you will find the book on Amazon. Right now, I only have the paperback version. Eventually, I would like to get this to a hardback, and everyone will be notified of that day if you come to the website, mylittlegrowingmindset.com. Sign up for my emails. I'm going to be adding all kinds of things to this. It's something that I'm doing. I'm pursuing this alongside my regular illustration career. So it's something I have to fit in, but I have such big ideas and big plans for where I'm going to take this awareness around growth mindset. To me, it's a movement that's really just getting going in this area of how we can help parents nurture this in their children. And I'm just so excited to contribute. So please come to the website, sign up for the email list, and you'll be first to know whenever I have something new to share.
Amazing. Amazing. And we will have all those links directly in the show notes. So no need to Google anybody. Google can send us down rabbit holes. We don't want to go. But yes, they just click straight through and go check out April's amazing resources. As we wrap up, I just want to say that I agree with you. There is a movement happening in the world of conscious parenting, where people are just feeling much more intentional about life, about their goals. And they have applied that now to this idea of, who am I going to raise? What is the next generation's legacy going to look like and sound like? And what are the quality of the human beings that we are going to bring into the world? And so your work is really fueling the ability to do that, because to want to do it is one thing, but to know how you're going to do it and to have the resources to keep you focused on that track when our old programming keeps popping up is really, really important. Thank you again, April. Best of luck as you continue to use your beautiful creative brain to create things for us.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited about it.
Until our next episode, Stay mindful and proactive as you transform the toddler years.